You might call it the tale of two Erics. Which Eric, take your pick. Few things show the dysfunction of the Republican Party like President Trump's endorsement in the Missouri Senate primary ahead of today's vote. He endorsed, and we're not making this up, Eric, although he did not specify Eric Greitens, the disgraced former governor and accused child abuser, or Eric Schmidt, the affable but rather boring Missouri Attorney General. You can see from the tweets, both claimed they were the chosen Eric. Since we're all on first-name basis here, Chris is here with us. You know, as much fun as everyone was having yesterday, going through which Eric's, which is it going to be? Is he going to do Greitens? Is he going to do Schmidt? I didn't hear a single person come up with it would just be Eric. Only Trump could do that.
Well, I don't know whether it was on purpose or whether it was an accident. I'm going to guess it was probably an accident and that he meant to endorse Greitens. But then after the fact, it works because Trump could look like he won either way, I guess. But the very fact that Eric Greitens is even in the discussion anywhere in the Republican Party, that this guy has not been totally exiled from the GOP and has a real chance to maybe lose a Senate seat that the Republicans should have in perpetuity, as you said, gives us a lot of insight on the condition of the Republican Party in places like Missouri.
It's kind of stunning. You say that Republicans should have it in perpetuity. Trudie Bush Valentine, not of the Bush political family, of the Bush beer family, is running for the Democratic nomination. As a proud Missourian, I'm still on a number of the political texts. I got this text. It's an ad that came out via text message for her, the Democrat. We'll put it up on the screen. Dem candidate for U.S. Senate Trudie Bush Valentine condemns critical race theory, and the text message going out is promoting that, promoting the existence of a moderate Democrat. If Greitens wins this primary, as shocking as that would be, does somebody like her actually have a chance? Does this show that Democrats are starting to get behind the concept of moderate electable Democrats in light blue, light red states?
Well, look, the Missouri is a deep red state. It's St. Louis Cardinals red. Democrats in Missouri would be willing to accept a moderate to even conservative Democrat, the same way Democrats in a place like West Virginia. Joe Manchin is as good as you're going to do. The problem in our system, of course, is, yes, Missouri Democrats would be more than happy to have this moderate, well-funded, centrist kind of nominee to run against a real weirdo like Greitens. They're perfectly happy. But then you look at a state like Arizona, will Democrats be willing to rally behind Mark Kelly? In Ohio, will they be willing to rally behind Tim Ryan and really come out to vote for them? So it really is your primary voters and the base members of a party are only willing to be willing when they think it's their only shot very often.
Yeah, but you bring up Arizona, which is sort of a little bit like a Greitens test case, because there are a couple of people on the ballot there who are perhaps not totally as wacky as Eric Greitens is, but pretty close. Blake Masters, Carrie Lake, Lake running for governor, Masters for Senate, both Trump endorsed, big time stolen election types. And then you have Robson, Republican, endorsed by Mike Pence. Pence won pretty handily with his proxy in Georgia, Trump v. Pence. Does it happen again tonight?
I think Brian Kemp won in Georgia, and that Pence was more the beneficiary there than the person supporting. Arizona is in a very weird place right now. Just for some perspective on what Arizona is like and what it should be like, they have a very successful governor finishing his 2 terms, who should be not only either running for Senate or he should be on the short list for people who would be running for president in 2024 on the Republican side. But instead, Doug Ducey is persona non grata with a bunch of people in the Republican Party in Arizona because of this stolen election flim-flam stuff. And until Republicans are ready to get past the 2020 election, until they're ready to admit that they lost, move on and get on to the next thing, they're going to give away seats like these in Arizona. These should not be competitive races. This is still a very Republican state, despite Biden's win there in 2020. There's no excuse for Republicans to even be competitive there and in Georgia, but they have a broken primary system and they've got real disputes within themselves that they haven't resolved.
I got about 45 seconds. You say if Republicans can't get past, Glenn Youngkin somehow figured out a way to get past it and still get the Trump vote in Virginia and win a D+10 state. So there is a lane here, right?
A Virginia Republican is like a Missouri Democrat. They were willing to make some sacrifices in terms of their wants in order to try to win a general election. If you don't believe that your party lost, though, as Republicans in Arizona may not, or some in Georgia may not, you don't believe they really lost, and you believe that lie, then you are not likely to do the next thing that is necessary to win a general election, which is moderate and pick a candidate that can be appealing to persuadable voters, and that's the test Republicans face tonight.
And we will be looking forward to you breaking down the results for us. Long night for Chris Stirewalt. We will see you soon, my friend. Thank you, as always.
You bet.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.